So one of my favorite things that I did while in Australia was visiting the Powerhouse Museum. Powerhouse Museum is a museum of applied arts and sciences. It was awesome. I myself like museums, and this was a really cool one. So while I was at this museum, I actually spent an entire day there. I got there probably 15 or 20 minutes after they opened, and I stayed until they closed. So spent the entire day, and it was almost enough time to get through everything, but I still could have used a little bit of more time to just see all that they had. So I'll tell you guys about some of my favorite parts of the museum and some of the stuff that I thought was really awesome that they had, and hopefully you can go check it out sometime. So one thing that was really cool at this museum that I found almost right away upon entering was the Boulton and Watt steam engine. They have this huge steam engine there. It's like 2 stories high, and it was actually operated in a brewery for 102 years over in London, and then it was taken apart and kind of some of the old parts replaced and refurbished and that sort of thing and put into the museum here. And one thing that they do that's really, really awesome, unfortunately I didn't get to see it, but they actually do demonstrations where they have somebody come out and they actually push steam through it and you can see it working. Unfortunately, it didn't happen when I was there, but that would have been really awesome if I would have been able to see that. Super, super cool. The museum had a couple of locomotives, some steam engines that were there. You could look at them. I like trains. There was an exhibit on digital design and its impact on the world. So in that exhibit there was a lot of stuff that was 3D printed. They had different, like, here's a coral reef, or here's a representation of a jellyfish or whatever, that were all 3D printed, and kind of showing how with 3D printing you can make things that you couldn't make before, and with digital technologies. And one thing that was interesting that they had was a 3D printed cup, and it was sitting on top of a printout of all the code, all the binary code that was required in order to print it. This printed code was 60,871 pages of ones and zeros. They had a mousetrap making machine, which was basically like just parts together from a bunch of junk. The standard production rate was 1,000 mousetraps per hour. They had an entire exhibit on the steam revolution. I love the steam revolution. I think steam power is awesome. So they had a whole bunch of different steam engines, and it was really cool to get around and look at them. They had some like really small little scale models that you could push a little button and then you'd see it going around and operating, and you know, try and look at all the moving parts and see what it's doing and how it's doing it. I thought that was really, really cool. Another thing that was really cool that they had was an experimentations exhibit, where it's more of a hands-on thing, where kids can actually get in there and learn scientific principles through hands-on exploration, which is really cool, and I think that's a really important thing. It's the kind of thing that I would have loved as a kid, and even as an adult I kind of loved it. So they have like gears where they have an entire magnetic wall, and then these gears are magnetic so you can move them around on the wall. And then you get your gears and you line them up on each other, and then you can spin one gear and see how it turns the next gear, and so on. So you're learning about gears and the transfer of power through that. They had one where there was a corkscrew bringing small little like balls up to the top of this wall, and then it would dump them out the side. And then there was a bunch of magnetic tubing sections that were also stuck onto the magnetic wall there, so you could move those around and create different paths for the balls to go through as they come back down to the floor. They had some stuff with electricity, so there was a bicycle connected to an electric generator, and you could go and ride the bicycle and then see how it lights up the light, or you could turn the crank on this other piece and see how it lights up the light and makes a little trolley go around in circles. So really cool ways for kids to get to see these scientific principles. They had a giant lever where someone hangs on a swing on one side, and then there's ropes at different distances on the other side, so you can see how the longer the lever arm is, it takes less and less effort to lift the person on the swing. They had a room where it was only lit by sodium lamps, which have a very narrow emission of light as far as the color of that light. It's like one color versus sunlight or the lights in your house are a broad spectrum of colors. And so in this room, it's like kind of a yellowy color. And so since that's the only color being emitted, that's the only color that can reflect off of anything. So all the objects in the room, regardless of what color they actually are, appeared all like just different hues of this one yellowish color. And then there was flashlights in there, so you could look at an object and try and guess what color it is, and good luck, it could be any color. But then you shine a flashlight on it, which has more of a broad spectrum of light, and then it would reflect back what the actual colors are. It makes me want to do my entire house in those lights and just have everything look all the same always. They also had an electric coil that was used to demonstrate the magnetic fields that are generated by electricity flowing through a coil of wire. So this coil was set in the desk, and then there was a bunch of compasses around it, and then depending on which way you had the electricity flowing, you could see all the compasses would orient one direction or they would orient the other direction, and you could see the magnetic field lines coming out and back into the coil, which was really cool. This museum had stuff about steam power, trains, space exploration, transportation in general, computers, robots, medical technology, innovations in technology, how technology has impacted manufacturing, so much stuff. It was awesome. I didn't even get to look through all of it, but it was a very good time. This was $15 to get in, but definitely worth the cost, in my opinion. I think that this museum was one of my favorite things that I did while in Sydney. Like I said, spent the entire day there.